Hello, everyone. Tracy here, your resident business rebel, and you're listening to Digital Business Your Way podcast, the show that lets true stories and insider secrets of online entrepreneur life unfold. Our business world is growing, and as an online business coach and digital product creator, I believe you didn't become an entrepreneur to grin and bear your way through business. So I'll be your guide as we drop in on coaching calls, have intimate sit downs with online personalities you love, and discuss ideas, opportunities, and strategies circulating our online world. So pop in your earbuds, tap follow, and join me as I demystify this thing called business.
Facebook ad agency. I'm going to scale to $100,000 months. And I went for it, and I thought this would be perfect. I had it broken down, I was going to grow a team, a couple of junior ad managers, me, somebody who wrote copy, a person who was going to be my executive assistant, and build this business. And I went for it. And then I kind of went sideways as I experienced growing pains, like I'm sure you've experienced, and made some different decisions, hired a business coach, and now I'm to a model that more fits my true goals, my realistic goals.
Welcome in, everyone. And today I am joined by Quayjo Sempani Kessi, and we are going to talk about what it really looks like to make an online business, especially if the one you have now isn't the one you started out with. And if you aren't familiar with Quayjo, well, you should be. He's an amazing man, and he is the host of the Art of Online Business podcast. He's a Facebook ads manager and an online business strategist. And Quayjo has quite the interesting journey getting to this point because since January of 2020, he has resided in central Mexico with his wife and 2 kids after an ill-timed vacation right at the start of the pandemic. That little vacation ended his 12 years of living in China with a completely different online business. He's fluent in Mandarin, decent Spanish, and firmly believes that everyone should experience international travel and engage with different cultures. So if you're ever looking for an ads manager that does a bit more than bringing quality leads, Quayjo is your guy, optimizing funnels, providing marketing and sales and operational mojo, even giving you hiring guidance. He's on a mission to help his clients work less, earn more, and live the life they were meant for. Let's listen in on our discussion of what his journey has really looked like. Well, thank you very much for being here today, Quayjo. I appreciate that. I had a lot of fun being on your podcast, and now here you are in my little hot seat. So this will be fun because it was kind of funny how you and I connected, and we talked about this on your show, but it was kind of that like Instagram DM situation, and it was like, hey, I think you do this. You want to hang out? It's like, yeah, cool. Let's see what goes on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my interpretation of how it goes as the person who is too chicken to do outreaches like that. But
I just like meeting people. And as I think you're going to
yeah.
have me share later, like at that time, I was DMing people who I thought would be great to meet. So I messaged you.
Yeah.
Did I message you or did you message me? I
Oh,
didn't.
no, you did, and it's so like, I'm not an initiator, right? And that's just something that I own, and, as my listeners know, it's like, I talk about it, I'm the awkward duck, I don't mind, that's just how it is, it's like, but you can still be successful and be whatever version of you that you are,
Hmm.
right? And that's kind of like the beauty and the premise behind bringing these guests on. It's like, well, what has your life really been like? What does it look like to build this business, to have to show up online,
Hmm.
in whatever version of you that it is. And like for me, I'm great being a podcast guest, showing up on a summit, being a guest coach. It's like you want me to do like a talk or teach something, I'm all in. You want me to make a bunch of reels or do like some sort of content stuff, and I'll just go, I'll do it, but you have to tell me how to do it. I just don't
Yeah.
think that way, And so I always admire people like you who are like, yeah, sure, I'll just, start finding people and vetting them and being like, hey, let's connect. Let's see what's going on. Because that is such a needed skill, in this line of work.
Survival. It's survival. No, I mean, okay, yes, yes, but then also, other than being a necessity, at least one that I've been coached to grow my business, it's just fun to meet people. And I feel like if you meet people in the DMs, like yeah, we do it with wisdom, like people who we could partner with who it makes sense, but also like it's just have fun, meet people. People are interesting. There's so many cool people out here in like our online business, online course creator, online coaching world. And you're one of them. So like I'm absolutely happy that I DM'd you, and now like we've crossed paths in the Mixer Mind, and we'll be in
Hmm.
Cabo soon
Right?
on that
Yeah,
retreat.
yeah, and we've done, like, our little collab things because exactly, it's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do an Instagram collab with you, just tell me what to do." Like, I'm not against these things, I just don't think about them, It's like my mind doesn't work that way, but I can also come out with, like, an entire new training, and somebody looks at me like, "Wait, what just happened?" And it's like in 7 minutes, I just came out with a brand new course.
That's
And
cool.
it's like yeah, and it's like, "And here's your launch plan, and here's how to do this," and people are like, "Wait, how'd you do that?" And it's like the same way you just decided to make a story on Instagram. It's like some people are wired one way and the other, and it's like you have to find that kind of, like, surround yourself with the people that help you shine where
Mhm.
you don't realize that you're actually shining, so that way you kinda get that little giggly, "Yeah, I guess I am good at that." And also it helps to kind of ground you in the places that you feel that you kind of lack, so you realize that it's not actually a lack, right? It just kind of helps you own what you enjoy and what you don't. And so for me it's like that's kind of that had me thinking about you and why I was like, I wonder if you will come and hang out on here because
Okay.
you went on what I call a forever vacation because you and your family, you were living in China, doing your thing, having a business, working in languages.
Mhm.
Then you ended up in Mexico and you do Facebook ads now. So it and it's like, okay, all right, let's see. It's like what's the through line part? It's like how does it like what piques that interest? Like what keeps involvement? Is it the I don't the human angle? The help my brain make those fun
Oh,
connections.
I will connect the dots for you. I will say that there are kind of two lines of thought here. One is that you pursue your passion, and the other thought is that you pursue what works and it ends up becoming your passion.
Mm,
Facebook ads is what worked and ended up becoming my passion, and I'll tell you the story. First, we're going to rewind back to China. My wife and I were eating. We had taken a vacation. Our nanny was watching our daughter at the time, and we were in the capital of Beijing at a Mediterranean restaurant eating naan and hummus, overlooking like one of like the central most popular shopping center in Beijing. It's called Sanlitort, and my wife hears and then sees because like she kind of looks to the side of us, but there's like two girls in the restaurant too, and they've spotted me. And now they're like kind of giggling to each other and looking, and it's that I'm going to get up and come introduce ourselves to you. And they came over to the table and they're like, "Hey, you're the elementary Chinese guy." And they wanted to take a picture with me. And my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, this actually happens." And the context here is that I ran Facebook ads the incorrect way. So I was broke, but I was famous in China, like Hollywood B level, like B-lister level famous among the
mm,
expats because
yeah.
I was boosting Instagram posts. However,
Oh, okay. All right.
not a good thing. Not a good thing at all, right?
No, no.
And Instagram's great about getting you followers, but there's a whole strategy there which I was not employing, which meant I had nothing to sell initially and didn't
Yeah.
have these posts connected to a lead magnet or
Yeah.
anything. This was before ManyChat, but I just had lots of followers. And because Facebook ads is a marketplace, like you're bidding for space in somebody's feed, but because Western media with all the good juicy stuff is blocked in China, so like nobody's advertising on Facebook and Instagram to China except for me. And so for very, very cheap, like my Chinese, learn Chinese entertaining videos, and they were fun too, were showing up on people's iPads and iPhones and Androids. And lots of expats knew me by face. They didn't know my name, but they knew me by face. And so these two girls got their picture, and left. And my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, you really are famous." I was like, "I told you." So what
That is amazing.
it was a good time. It was a good time. My wife might tell you it from a different angle, but randomly I was able to go on a couple of influencer trips.
Okay.
One happened to be where I met one of my students who at that time was Miss Brazil. Now she actually got second, Miss Universe. Like I think the lady from Mexico beat her out for Miss Universe, but she got like second runner up. So second place, if you will. So I
Yeah.
was on this trip, and being the good husband I am, everything on the up and up, but also telling my wife after the trip, like, hey, these are like kind of the people I was with, because China will pay you to be a tourist, and you go there and you take pictures and you share all the pictures with your social media following. And this was fall of 2019 when it's cold where we lived at in the north. And
Mm.
my wife is like, seriously? Okay. I know you're like just showing me what you're doing and all the places you went, but like, I'm done. I don't want to see any more pictures of you in the Hawaii of China with Miss Brazil. So, Facebook ads done wrong can get you followers, but followers don't do anything for your
Correct.
revenue. So, how am I in Mexico right now, and how am I an ads manager, and what happened to that Chinese business? We are just a unique couple, and we speak foreign languages to our kids, or we still speak. And so when we were in China, our daughter was born, and I spoke only Mandarin to her. She's 8 now, sorry. And
I
my
can
wife,
edit that. It's okay.
thank you. No, it's she won't. I get the ages wrong all the time. I'm a bad dad in that respect. Like people be like, "How old is your kid?" Like, and most parents will say, "Oh yeah, they're 28 months or whatever." Like I would just say they were born in this date and let other people do the math. It's easier. It just
The
goes like,
important part is noted, right?
yeah, I got enough to think about. So but she was speaking Spanish to my daughter. And I wanted in on that because, like, while my wife is not a native Spanish speaker, she's very, very fluent in Spanish. And I was speaking Mandarin to our daughter, but my wife lived in China and my wife speaks decent Mandarin too. And so when our son was born, I was like, let's go to Mexico and do an immersion language program for me at like this school. So we went. Unfortunately, that was January 13th, 2020. So then you know what happened? Then we were happy to quarantine in Mexico because like endless supply of guac and tacos. Oh my gosh. It really was a fairy tale. Like we had a quaint Airbnb. It was like a courtyard with 15 other Airbnbs, and like kids would just play downstairs, like double balconies, like yellow walls, blue sky, and right outside the
Nice.
gate, it was just tacos and great food. So we quarantined there, and then all of a sudden China says they're closing the borders. Now, at that point, we figured stay in Mexico, wait until China opens up the borders a couple months later. But China did not open up their borders until 2023. And they
Yeah.
closed them in like April of 2020, I believe. So then, because my business teaching Chinese to expats in China, that was making money, but it was incorporated in China, and I wasn't there to renew it. And the ease of doing business in China is horrible for expats. So because I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
return and do all the stamps and paperwork, so I had to shut the business down. And then a month later, our like 4-bedroom place was up to renew like a 1-year lease. Couldn't do that from overseas. Weren't sure if we were going to go back. So we had our friends hop on FaceTime. So imagine this. You left your house in its vacation clean because you're supposed to come back after vacation, and clean it up. We had one check in luggage, a couple of carry ons, and our 2 kids with us in Mexico. Everything else was at home, our then home, because we had lived in China for 12 years. And our friends
Oh,
are
wow.
on FaceTime with us. And through this little screen on like our iPad and my cell phone, we're choosing what to keep. And we ended up with 6 luggages of stuff that we were reunited with a year and a half later. And everything else had to be liquidated, like garage sale, except for we never planned on selling that stuff. And so that was hard. And how I ended up being a Facebook ad manager was everything came tumbling down because of the pandemic. Like the Chinese business, teaching Chinese, I tried to pivot that, didn't work. Bled a lot of cash. Thank God we had savings, but about a year and a half out, I had to shut that down. Like I had zero job prospects, you know? And at that point, I was previously a member of like a high level mastermind, like a paid member. And so I reached out
Mm-hmm.
to the person who ran that mastermind, and this is like now fall during the pandemic, and we are like burning through savings so quickly, living away from home abroad for on the forever
Yeah.
vacation. I think we had taken a trip back to the US because you could only have tourist visas at that time. Still, we were on tourist visas
I,
to Mexico.
yeah, I was going to ask. I was like, how understanding were they? Because like you're trying to run a business, you're a family of four, you came from China, you're U.S. citizens. It's like the world at this point is in a pandemic. It's no longer country specific.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah,
How understanding were my in-laws or the
no.
Mexican government?
Yes, yes, Mexico, yes. Yeah, that little Airbnb with 15 other families, like
In the quaint Airbnb courtyard. I mean, it was a visa situation in Mexico, so we just had to leave.
Yeah.
And my in-laws were not understanding, unfortunately. Like
Oh, okay.
it was so they're from Michigan, and it's like I love them, but their views are they're from Michigan, and they made their money in the tooling industry, and so China was taking away their jobs. Like
Mhm.
they are right leaning, and so they were of the impression that COVID was a something constructed by the left, and as soon as Trump got elected, COVID would magically disappear. And so I'm hearing, I mean, some people believe that, and I respect people who believe all sorts of things. Like
Yeah, but you've also been in different countries
my
and
issue
witnessed it
was,
firsthand and are
you're,
now stranded as a family
yeah, we're stranded, and so I'm like,
because of very real situations.
it's a very real situation. I can't return to China because of this, and I'm hearing that this is not real, and it's like it is very real. A border's been closed. My whole life is ruined. So I'm in the basement praying in circles every morning because I have nothing, right? Like, I mean, I'm a Christian, so I pray anyway, but like, this was my life, like everything I've been building towards and working on in the past like decade plus, I can't go back.
Yeah.
Like, I feel out of place. I'm not at home in Mexico. I'm definitely not at home I haven't lived in the US since 2009. Like,
Mm,
we were teachers by trade, but then I had been doing business in China. So it's not like I could just transition, you know,
yeah.
and so I'm just like, every morning it's pretty much just praying in figure eights because like the basement was really big and like I wouldn't get dizzy in a circle, or I would get dizzy in a
Right?
circle. So I go into figure eight, and it was just like, God, I need something. Like our bank accounts are drying up and yada, yada, yada. I need to eat. Like, and I have no place to live. I'm stranded outside from my home. So I got a job teaching part time inside of a high level coaching like mastermind, Facebook ads. Well, actually, it was sales and marketing and funnel stuff because I had done that pretty well
Mhm,
for my own business. And then I had another part time running Facebook ads inside of an ads agency. And then I
mhm.
leveraged those two skills to start my business in 2022. And
Okay.
now here we are. I'm the host of the
Right.
Art of Online Business podcast, and I do Facebook ads for online course creators. And that's kind of how I got the skill and how we made it here. A little bit of a long story, but an interesting one.
No. Yeah, yeah. I mean, not at all. And it sounds like the very definition of fervent prayer, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Literal walking in faith.
Crying.
As tangible as it gets at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, and that's what happens, as you're trying to piece it together and even get your head around what's going on. As I mean, thankfully you still had friends that were there that made it through. It sounds like safely,
Mhm.
if you were able to, like FaceTime with them and they helped you kind of like sell your stuff and get that together.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very, very happy and thankful for them. But like as you were moving through this, like you had the real world experience of shall we say social celebrity moment because of boosting your ads over there
Yeah.
in China. And now you were like this behind the scenes and you're going, oh wow. Okay, yeah, this is why I shouldn't have been spending the money boosting and promoting. It's like now like you didn't know what you didn't know, right? But now you did know, and now you were building this whole business around basically helping people not make those same mistakes.
Yes.
And it's like it can get you, a selfie at a restaurant, but
Mhm.
that doesn't put revenue, let alone income, into your pockets. Yeah. So,
Well said.
how did you think that it was actually, like, going to go? Like, as you said that it became kind of this new passion, this new love with these Facebook ads, and were you thinking, like, "This is something that not only am I enjoying," and do you kinda have that geek out moment where it's like, "Oh, I can really, like, sink my teeth into this, and I love all these little parts and all these, like, little niggly bits?" Or was it just that kinda mission for helping other people not go through those pains, like, where does that passion come into this new skill that you're, like, translating?
It does not. And that might shock some folks, but for me, there is not a passion, like an innate passion for Facebook ads. There's a
Yeah.
passion for excellence and serving
Mm,
people well and making people money and thus like becoming an expert at my craft. But like
yeah.
so that's what I said before. Some people believe like you got to go for your passion, and that works for lots of people. And there's this other camp that says just do what works and you become passionate about it. I'm that second group. Like I had to choose at, I guess you would call that a midlife crisis because 43 now, so that would have made me 39. And like, God willing, I lived to 80 something. Like it was about halfway through my life. And I had to choose like, what could I do that would really work? And so it was like Facebook ads was a valuable skill. And then I'm passionate about being good at it. And I started out and I thought if I just acquire a podcast, because this maybe we won't talk about during this episode, but the opportunity to acquire a podcast came up and as a marketing arm of my business. So I did that. And I thought, Facebook ads, Facebook ad agency. I'm going to scale to $100,000 months. And I went for it. And I thought this would be perfect. I had it broken down. I was going to grow a team, couple of junior
Yeah.
ad managers, me, somebody who wrote copy, a person who was going to be my executive assistant, and build this business. And I went for it. And then I kind of went sideways as I experienced growing pains, like I'm sure you've experienced, and made some different decisions, hired a business coach, and now I'm to a model that more fits my true goals, my realistic goals.
Yeah. Right, and there's a couple things that I wanna dig in there, but on the to make sure that everybody understood what you were saying about that passion thing,
Yeah.
it's not that you were passionate, like, you didn't become passionate about the ads, it was more that passion about a skill that you had to do well for others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and that's a distinction. So it became something that you had to help others get what they wanted, and to be of service, and to be of help, and to make sure that they got to elevate the life and what they wanted, that also served your family and also let you live your dreams, and that is what you're actually passionate about, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Very, very similar to the person who is going to college and is presented with a choice. Maybe they love psychology, but they did a little research and they looked at the income for psychologists. And then they chose engineering because they could do engineering. Like, were they like innately passionate about it? No. But what happens is as they invested time in engineering, like they may have chosen it initially for its like income ability, but then they become an engineer and then they are passionate about doing their job with excellency, right? So it's kind of that journey.
Yeah, and that's, an important distinction, especially as people are kind of coming out of this, pandemic. I'm now at home. I'm now on the internet. What do I do? What do I figure out? Oh, wow, I can make bread all day on the internet. Fantastic. Let me sell that. Those kind of years that we all went through as a world,
Mhm.
and then as a culture into, okay, now what? Right? It's like
Yeah.
that served me for a time, but now what? Right, and what you're describing is very, intrinsic, it's very internal, and it's like, it doesn't matter what I'm applying, I can still find my passion, I can still find my heart, I can still find what I want to anything else,
Tracy, where were
and
you? Where were you when I needed somebody to talk me through this and help me process internally like 3 years ago?
I'm doing what I'm doing right now,
Right?
actually.
Right? Like, I needed you in my life back then. Seriously,
Well,
serious.
and that's my fault because I that's why I would say I'm a speakeasy. It's like I'm too quiet. I don't do enough marketing. I don't I don't see, as we were talking about, social media. I
Mm,
don't do enough of that. It's like I'm around. I just don't tell people I'm around, right? And so as then you said, it's like, okay, I found this thing. It can be, it's my engineering versus my psychology. I found this thing. I can go for it, and I can build it with a model.
yeah,
I can create this business foundation. I can create this team. I have what I think is an offer. I call it an offer suite. Other people call it a stack. I don't care what word you want to use. The point is, I came up with this number. For you, it was 100 grand. And now I'm going to work backwards to what I need to sell, how much I need to sell, what kind of team that needs to come up with.
yeah,
This is the nerdy bit that gets me excited, right? Because I
yeah.
was a consultant, and it was my job to go into businesses and to make them work, right? So it's like I have these ideas. Okay, but hang on, fast forward 2 more years. I also have a life, and I want it to work for me. Where's this balance of life and ideals? And, as we talked about, like, outside of recording, it's like the systems that are needed, the right humans in the right seats that are needed, all of the realities. Because truthfully, this is a case again of you just don't know what you don't know, and that is okay. And it is giving yourself that grace. It's giving yourself that time to let it evolve and to shed the things that you need to, right? And I call it
Mhm.
like blessing and releasing. It's like I had this idea, it's what I want. It served me as inspiration, but now I got to let it go.
Yeah,
In economics, it's called a sunk cost. It's like you have to be able to just kind of say, I've spent a lot of time, energy, money, blood, sweat, tears into it. But if I do not let this go, I'm going to drown. I got to cut it and I got to move on. Much, much less poetic than bless and release, but it's the same concept, right? And
yeah.
and that's where you found yourself now. You're now coming out of that. Yeah. But whenever you had this 100K goal, this 100K plan, and you were like, I needed a team that was this size,
Mhm.
that filled this numbers of roles, that required this much of me and of them. How did that feel? Like I mean, I'm sure there was like that honeymoon excitement moment, and time period of it. But then there was what happened at that point?
Well, I got part of the way there. I think I was hitting about like $40,000 months. And then I realized there was a problem. I had gone after this all gung ho and started to really go out there and try to meet people and find clients. But I did not. So the first lesson I learned was if you're going to try to build that kind of agency, then you had better have the right systems. And I grew too fast for my
Hmm.
systems. And so
Yep.
I had success, but what I realized and what ended up hurting me, and quite frankly, several clients at that point, was my systems, like me taking all the roles out of my head and replicating those so that somebody else on the team could do them. I didn't level up the systems quick enough. So then, like, mistakes started happening. And I was working because I didn't have the systems, because I didn't go and find some agency owners and like model my business after them. And because I tried to patchwork some strategy together with some YouTube videos, like it started to crumble. And then I did the smart thing, which is I went and hired a business coach who already had the same kind of business I wanted. And I
Hmm.
realized through some soul searching, and because I didn't like working super long hours, because I didn't have the systems, I realized I can still serve people at a good level just doing it myself. And I really was challenged. Like she kept asking me, well, why do you want to get to 100K months, for example? And I thought it was number of clients that would need to get
Mm.
me there. So I was like, well, great. It's pretty straightforward. I just need to have 25 clients, you know? And she's like, well, nobody wants 25 clients. And I was like, oh. And she's like, yeah, remember when you got to like 14, 15? Maybe I had 17 at once. And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, did you really want more? And I was like, I guess I wanted the money. She's like, well, then how can you serve people in a way that like you're serving them with excellency and helping them out, but you don't need 25 clients? And so this kind of started me down this path of, I don't need to work like 80 hours a week, and I don't need like a certain client number. I just have to help people with the problems that they really need help with and find the right kind of client that has those problems that I can help them with. And then I don't need 25 clients a month. And I don't need 2 or 3 junior ad managers, and I don't need this larger team. And so I had to learn a lot about systems, about really having like an offer suite, for example, being able to serve people who wanted to run their own ads, being able to be a consultant to people who were running their own ads but at a higher budget level and needed
Mhm.
like my expert opinion for like a month at a time, and then working with the businesses that truly needed me to help them with their budgets that were too large for them to do internally, or they had had like a bad experience with a previous ad manager, or maybe they were running their own ads for launches, but the responsibility of managing $7,000 or $10,000 for their own personal launch was draining them and
Yeah.
affecting their ability to show up with the
Mhm.
right amount of energy, you know,
Oh, yeah.
without that cognitive load of managing the budget, so they could just show up and serve people during their launch. And so I started serving them, and that's kind of the some things that went into the current business model I had. And that was a painful lesson with some victories along the way, but yeah, I've had to grow.
Yeah, and that's understanding the relationship between pricing and volume
Mhm.
and where the right fit comes in, right? So you found it by offering, at as needed consulting work,
Yeah.
by still offering like on team done for you, and by offering course, which still gives you that volume. So
Yeah.
yeah, sure, you can have 25 people, you can have 250 people in your course. That's not the same as in the business, you know
Yeah.
in the business maintaining 25 high-end clients at the same time,
It,
right?
no.
And that yeah, that's playing with like boutique versus volume, and playing with, the pricing models and different pieces like that, that really make up the different layers of a business. It doesn't mean that you scrap everything and start over. It doesn't mean that you were ever wrong with anything. It just means that you need to reframe, and that you need to restructure and restretch where it is. And sometimes you need some of the same team members. They're just serving a different revenue plan.
Yeah.
And other times you find that you don't actually need that workload at all, right? And that's where it's like you don't know until you actually get to put it in practice, because it's all great and fine whenever we're having dreams, and we're putting it on paper and we're talking about it and we're imagining it, but the reality of it can be so different.
It can. And if you do it right, if you find people who you can coach with, then you can realize the income levels that you want without burning the candle at both ends and sacrificing lifestyle. And one big thing for me too is like I want to learn, because if
Mhm.
somebody's done it and somebody's done it working 25 hours a week, then that means I just have to learn what they've learned. And so like one big lesson I guess the listener could think about, it helped me is, I hired a coach. I hired a coach who showed me the way, so to speak. But to bring it back home, like being stranded away from our home kind of put me in a survival, do whatever must be done in
Yeah.
order to make ends meet. Because like we had criteria for our lives and we had very real needs, 4 mouths in this household. 2 of them are growing and so consuming more and more food and still need clothes. And then like I need to make sure my kids were taken care of, like
Mhm.
they just see, oh yeah, we hopped in an airplane and we arrived somewhere else, and they're growing up in Mexico now. But it's like I like being able to hang out with my kids at the end of the day. And I hope later on that like my kids do pursue something online. And so I had to really get my act together. A huge learning curve, right? Growing a business and working with people and serving them at a high level. But then I also realized like I have to figure out how to do this within a certain number of hours so that at the end of the day I could still show up and be dad and not like be dad, but like
Mhm.
my brain is still off in workspace because like my kids need me because we got to kick the ball around in the yard and do Japanese on Duolingo because my daughter randomly doesn't like Chinese anymore and she wants to learn Japanese. So like I'm
She has to
doing
pave her own path, man.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's like she wants to be like you, but like you adjacent, you know?
Mhm.
So it's like, what other language is there, right? It's like it can't be the same one. Yeah.
No.
And I mean, but that is the power of innovation, what you did. And that's the beauty of humanity. It's like anytime that we are in those struggles, anytime that we're in those moments, we get that juice flowing and we really get to like figure out all of those things that it's just like, oh wow, what else is possible, what else is in there, you know? And I love those moments, you know. Sometimes we hate what brought us there, but there's so much beauty in what can come out of them when we allow it,
Yeah.
you know. And it's like, I never would have thought of this, I never would have come up with this, you know, if I wouldn't have been forced into this, you know, this environment where I had to think not just out of the box, but out of the country, out of the suitcase, out of the everything, you know, it wouldn't have happened that way,
Okay.
you know. And you've made such a, not just a beautiful business, but you've made a beautiful life out of it.
Getting there.
And that but that's the important part, right?
Yeah.
That's the part that it's like you can walk away feeling proud regardless of what those month end numbers look like, regardless of what sales are versus cash in hand, you know, versus income, because all of those numbers are different, you know, and margins and all of those fun little things that you can geek out of and that you can tweak.
Mhm.
But it's like, am I loving my life? Am I feeling like, you know, my kids know who I am?
Yeah.
You know, are they understand what I'm building to the level that they need to, versus, oh no, daddy's busy right now. Oh no, he's cranky right now because of something
Mhm.
else. Oh no, he won't be here right now because of this or that. Right. And you get to show up and you get to balance things the way that it matters for you and your wife.
Yeah. It's a unique challenge that I'm sure you've experienced and many listeners have. When we do business from home, we don't have that buffer of a
Right.
45-minute commute to kind of decompress, you know, and it's
Right.
like when we do business at home, whoever we are, right when we walk out of, is it the guest room? In my case, it's a guest room converted to an office. But like we walk out of
Hmm.
that door, like our kids are right there. And so even though like the kids, they have their own world, they have their own stories. Like many people's kids aren't quite sure, like up until a certain age, like what their parents do, you know? Like my kids kind of understand what they do, but they really don't. They come in on Zoom calls and they love to see all these new faces, but they're not sure like who I'm talking to exactly, right?
Mm-mm.
But they
Or
do
why?
have, or why, but they do have an impression like daddy's not happy because of work, or dad's like this because of work, because they know that like it's different if like dad hops in a car and goes to a place versus like when I close the door, they know that I'm just a door away working. And so it really does make me think about like how I carry myself, how I manage my stress, what kind of business I'm building behind the scenes so that I can be present for my family, because I want to help people, but at the end of the day I want to help people so that I can be a good father, right? And we got to exist economically. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and that is what brings that all back round
Mhm,
and helps that kind of, you know, passion ignite when maybe it's a little bit of a simmer that day.
mhm.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, and I mean, I feel that for myself, I do, some somatic exercises, so I'll, like, shake it out and kinda jump
Oh, yeah?
around and be like,
Okay.
you know, it's like getting it out of the body, closing those emotional loops before you kind of go out, right? And letting that kind of, like, be like, "Oh." So, do you have any advice for a listener who is out there and they are in the middle of that? You know, they're like, they thought the business was gonna turn into this. They did the programs, they created the things, they're reaching for this one goal, and they're like, but I'm not liking this. It's like it's not working out the way I wanted. There's something that's just not fitting here.
My advice would be what I have lived over the past several years. There's a quote that we miss out on opportunity because it comes dressed in overalls and it looks like work. And there's another quote that like whatever you're doing, work is either going to, you're either working your work and getting a result, or your work, if it's not going so well, is working on you. In which case,
Mm,
if someone's in a situation where where the work that they're putting in isn't quite matching the output, like the goals, the things that they wanted to have, then like that work is working on them like it was working on me, but you got to let the work on you and change like you need to so that you can get what you want. And so either way, it's going to be work. Work it, and if
Hmm.
it's not working, let it work you and work on you, so to speak, and like work out of you the change that needs to happen so that you can be the person that can attain the goals or have and accept the goals or keep the things that you're going after. For example, like
Hmm.
we say we want $70,000 a month in revenue, just to pull out a random number that's not six figures a month, right? But that person that can generate or have a team or be the leader for a team that generates that kind of revenue and run it and still serve clients with excellency is different from the solopreneur who's just generating $7,000 a month, right? It just takes more work, and it takes the work
Yeah.
working on you and you changing. And so that would be my advice.
Yeah, yeah, and, work's not a dirty word, right? It's not something that we have to shy away from. It doesn't make you inadequate in the online space, like, you didn't do anything wrong if you need to work for something. We all do.
Yeah.
It just needs to look different for yourself,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't mean that it has to be difficult. It doesn't mean that it has to take 18 years to do it. Those aren't the same, types of words, but it is something that you need to go through yourself in order to figure out like what that needs to be on your side and what your business needs to look like. Yeah.
Right. I would say pay for coaching. Coaching is a shortcut. It's great. Find somebody that has what you want, pay for their advice. It's the shortcut to get what you want. I don't know if people like Gary Vaynerchuk. I remember watching a lot of him when I was building my YouTube channel for my previous business. And one thing he said, like this was like back in like 2019, that stuck with me was like, and I'll add a little bit to it, but it's like we're weird. This is my part, right? Like we are making money online, like we talk about, oh yeah, like I had a 5-figure month or a 6-figure launch, and we like to share income numbers, but like this whole making money online thing is slightly more accepted because of the pandemic. Like people get, but it's like, do you remember how people looked at you sideways when you're like, yeah, I work from home and I use Zoom?
Oh
Like
yeah.
pre-pandemic, they're like, well, what do you do working from home? And
Oh
like
yeah.
you're just like this weird. So to think that we could generate this kind of income working from behind our computers and also have the lifestyle that we want on our terms, doing the things
Hmm.
that we love and kind of designing our lives, like the kind of words that you and I exchange and the goals that you and I talk about and that we will talk about, like when we're going to this in-person retreat in Cabo, and like the listener hears you talk about, like these are very, most people don't live like this. And so to think that we can have a lifestyle like this without working is just naive. It's going to take
Yeah.
work. So let's go. Let's do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. But it's like, but what it means for you, what it looks like for you, it's like you get to decide that. And, I mean, I guess it's classic for a reason. What you put into it, you get out of it.
Hmm.
You want quality output, you have to put in quality input.
Hmm.
And and it's like what is that going to be? And that is the same with Facebook ads. So for people who are tired of pumping money into promotion because maybe they didn't even know they weren't supposed to, or they're ready to
Oh,
actually have somebody else do it for them,
right.
how do you want to connect with them?
I was like, oh yeah, Facebook ads. Right. Yeah, we're talking about
Yeah.
Facebook ads too. I forgot to say something very important, which is that Facebook ads are not for everybody. Folks
Ah.
assume that I have a bias because I'm a Facebook ad manager and I want clients. Yes,
Mhm.
I am. And yes, I do. However, Facebook ads are not for every business. Like, I also am and was a business coach. Like, you do what's working in your business. And for some people, that's an organic funnel. I will
Yes.
say very shortly, I believe Jesus saves, Facebook ads do not. It's not a game of just get more eyeballs on your account, just get more eyeballs on the
Yeah.
offer. You got a performing offer that is performing well organically, then there are signs that adding Facebook ads to the equation could work for you. But if it's not profiting you, like, then don't do it. There's other ways to grow the business. So if somebody wants to hear about Facebook ads from me, The easiest way is just to click in the show notes below and go listen to the podcast. Like, I love interviewing folks like yourself, experts that also serve the online course creator niche, launch strategists, copywriters, people who specialize in growing social media accounts, video creators, like sales professionals, and of course, me myself on the podcast, The Art of Online Business, sharing Facebook ads goodness and what's working and what's not working as I see it in my clients' accounts.
Right? I mean, it's so true. And as we say in copywriting, and you and I have talked about, ads do not fix bad offers.
Correct.
Copywriting does not fix bad offers. All that does is amplify what you got.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing. You want quality output, you need quality input.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's like let's fix it, let's test it, let's get it working and going and people loving on it, and then let's amplify it. Yeah.
Well said.
Yes, I love that. And yes, everybody will have all of the links to be able to find you. And I hope that they do, because I have enjoyed hanging out with you.
Yay.
And I've loved being, with you on your Instagram and on your podcast. And so I hope people come hang out with you as well. So
Thanks.
thank you for being here today.
Thank you for the honor of being on your podcast. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for joining me here on Digital Business Your Way. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the links mentioned today. And while you're there, I'd love for you to rate and review the show. And if you have a topic or question you want me to answer, I want to hear it. Head to tracypatterson.com/AMA and ask me anything about business. If I don't know it, I'll bring it up with one of my guests. And until next week, be well and have some fun.